Good morning, folks. Councilman Rasmussen here, coming to you with my update from our council meeting on May 3rd. Sorry, it's an odd day because it's not a Monday. And it took me an extra day to get to this because I was very busy yesterday morning. I didn't have time to even sit down and record a video. So the reason why the council meeting was moved from May 1st, which is our typical Monday, to May 3rd, is that we have to give a certain amount of time between the actual date of an election and when those results can be contested or anything like that before we can actually swear people in. So we technically had to push it back a couple of days, and May 3rd was the earliest date that we could possibly do it. So going to give you a little update on our agenda, but first start off with some of the things that you might need to know. As always, if you're not signed up for the Town Tidbits, they came out yesterday. There's a lot of stuff in them this week. But just to hit on a couple of the big highlights, first and foremost, tonight is our very first Smyrna First Friday music down on Main Street. If you're here in town and you want to come out and see some great music, looks like we're going to have nice weather. There's going to be music, there's going to be food, there's going to be drinks. Head down, my kids are sad. We're heading to a wedding today. They're happy that we're going to a wedding, but my daughter really loves the chicken on a stick from Guzzy Q and the banana pudding, and so she was hoping she'd be able to get some. Unfortunately, not going to happen. Sorry, just realizing I've still got stuff on my face from making whiskey this morning already. So get out there tonight, enjoy some music. Also, the May 9th is the school board election here in town. So polls are open from 7 to 8 p.m., 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., sorry. You can find the polling places, but the major polling places, Smyrna Elementary, Smyrna Middle, and the Kenton Rotarian Club are where you can go to vote for that. So get out there and vote in the school board election. Right now going on is the Carry the Load event. This is starting this morning from the VFW post. This is an effort to call attention to the some of the struggles that veterans in our community and veterans around the country have. It's a neat little thing. It's going to be heading right past my building here in just a few minutes, hopefully. So I get to go out and see the gentlemen who are participating in this, and men and women, sorry, carrying the load for those other service members who are unable to carry it themselves. A little piece in here, a shout out to Chief James. So at the 31st annual FBI LEEDA training conference, he was elected to the position of Sergeant at Arms, which is a great honor. It also means that he will be the next president of the FBI's LEEDA, which is awesome. It's always great to see Chief doing wonderful things and doing them here in Smyrna and on the national stage. So congratulations to him, and make sure you congratulate him. You see him, chances are he'll be out at the music tonight. And a lot of other little things. There's some other events. There's the fishing derby coming up that the police is hosting. There's a family art factory festival coming up. So there's a bunch of cool stuff going on, and it's all in the Town Tidbits. Sign up for it. Get to know what's happening. You'll see this stuff on Facebook too, but the Tidbits is a great way to get it all at once a week. As far as the meeting last night, so technically we had two meetings. The first is what we would call our organizational meeting. So after an election, we have to host an organizational meeting, which is basically to swear in the new council members, swear in the returning council members, and do some housekeeping type things like approve who is the check signers and things like that for different accounts. It doesn't take very long. It's about a 15-minute sort of meeting. So we held the swearing in ceremonies for Councilman Presley, and who is a returning councilman, and Mayor Johnson, who's returning mayor, as well as our newest councilwoman, Karina Upshar. So she was there. It's a nice little ceremony. It's fast. Family can come and attend, and just a nice way to kick things off. The mayor then appointed the council appointments, which are the vice mayor, the secretary, and the recording secretary. I'm honored to be appointed as the vice mayor. It's a kind of a ceremonial thing. It means that I get to run the meetings when the mayor is not there. So not a lot of additional responsibility, but kind of fun. So I'm happy to play that role. Councilman Presley was appointed as the secretary, and Mary Johnson was reported as the recording secretary. We set our meetings dates, which is going to continue to be the first and third Mondays at 7 o'clock, and then approved all the check signers, which is a whole bunch of different accounts. So that was the first 15 minutes or so. We then got to take a quick break, and then we get into the actual council meeting big stuff. The agenda was actually pretty short, and the meeting itself was actually pretty short, which is always kind of nice thing to do. Major things that were out there, as far as some old business items, there were the second reading of an ordinance to update our code regarding utility accounts where there is a medical necessity that we can't turn off the account if they don't update or if they don't pay their bill. Really just sort of clarifying that they are still responsible to pay their bill. It's not just free electric if you happen to have a medical requirement that you have electricity turned on, and you have to make a good faith effort to actually try and pay your bill. We do have accounts that do not try and do that. And so this is updating our code to make sure that we're in line with the state standards and the recommendations, so that in those cases where there is an issue like that, we're legally protected as the town. The second reading means we'll have one more reading at the next meeting before it is officially approved as a code change to our ordinances. And the other old business item, we brought this up last time a little bit, was this idea of a billing policy relevant to water meters. There are about 500 people here in town who have 2 water meters in their house. One is the typical water meter that everyone has. The other is what's called a yard meter. Yard meters are if you have a lot of irrigation or things like that, and you want to be able to utilize water without having to pay sewer attached to it, because this isn't water going down the drain. It might be watering your lawn, washing cars, things like that. Yard meters, for a long time, the system was basically you purchased a yard meter. It was an extra $300. You had it installed, and then you would pay for the water costs associated with that. So every month you'd get, a second add-on to your bill for water. It was pointed out to us as we were doing our rate studies that our cost the town is essentially losing money on yard meters, because even though we're not paying to put them in, the long-term costs associated with the increased demand on our system is not fully captured in the water amounts. And as we move to a system that has basically a maintenance fee or a monthly fee, and then a smaller amount attached to each water usage, or each 1,000 gallons of water usage, we would need to capture some of those additional costs for the yard meters. The proposal was to implement a monthly fee associated with those. We got a lot of pushback as soon as we started implementing that monthly fee from folks who've been utilizing yard meters for a very long time and not seeing any additional costs. It's a tricky thing, right? Because the town shouldn't be losing money on providing somebody with water, but we were basically at that spot when it comes to yard meters. So the initial proposal that we approved last, or 2 years ago almost, was to have a monthly fee associated with the yard meters. A proposal was made to change that so that the monthly fee only corresponded to the months from April through October, basically the 7 months where people are likely to be utilizing their yard meter for irrigation and those things. There wasn't any pushback from council on that. I think people understand it's being flexible and understanding that we need to capture those costs in some way, but maybe a 12-month fee versus a 7-month fee is an accurate way to do that. It will mean about $30,000 decrease in overall revenue that the town collects from water system, which means we'll have to figure out how to make that up in some other way, because ultimately, we have to pay our bills, and we need that money to pay our bills. So that change was made at the request of the utility committee and Councilman Brown. As far as old business went, there was a quick thing. There's a group called the National Foundation for Women Legislators, and they have an annual conference every year. A number of our councilwomen have attended this for years in the past, and so they wanted to let us know about that and ask for permission from council to go ahead and attend. It's no cost to the town. It's all covered by the Foundation for Women Legislators. So it's more of a formality, and it's great to have that opportunity for them to go out and network and participate in something that looks like a lot of fun. There was another agenda item about the Town of Smyrna wastewater design change. This was more of just an update that the town staff was letting us know that they are going to be coming to us with a proposal to change some of the flow calculations that we utilize for sizing and design of our wastewater system. There are some things, I guess there's some spots where maybe the system is as it currently is designed, or as it currently is proposed, is over-designed. Other areas where we may need to make some changes. In the end, I don't know if it matters all that much from a cost perspective, if it's going to change things dramatically from that end as we look to build out or maintenance some of this infrastructure. But it was brought to our attention that there will be a proposal coming forward from the council to address some of these concerns. We had a conversation with Citizens Hose Company and the American Legion regarding impact fees. So last year, we implemented some changes to our impact fees. These are fees that are passed from the town to developers when they are basically building a building, a new project, and then the town essentially collects those fees and passes them on to the fire department, the ambulance department, the school district. These fees are designed to help support those services that our community needs to address the capital needs. So capital needs meaning this isn't money to go to support operations, it's money to buy equipment, replace equipment, things like that. The fees that we implemented last time, we increased the fees to sort of try and recapture a little bit of the additional funding. But one of the things that was pointed out, and I think this was missed on our part, on council's part, is that the cap, that there's also a cap put on these fees. You can't collect more than $3,750 associated with any one of these building permits. It's 0.035 or 375 cents per percent, of a project. So to capture $3,750, you'd have to basically have about $1 million build project. Very few of those that are going on, but we do have some that are coming, and they are likely to have a much larger impact on the fire and ambulance department. These would be multifamily housing units like apartments or larger townhouse complexes, where if you're building 20 apartments, it might be under one building permit, which would have that cap associated with it. So it was brought up to our attention. Certainly we want to make sure that we are collecting the fees necessary to provide accurate capital funding to the fire and ambulance system or services here in town. And we discussed the idea of removing the cap when it's associated with those specific types of buildings, and also large commercial buildings, or possibly changing some of the definitions so that it's applied to each individual, what's called a residential development unit or equivalent residential development unit or equivalent dwelling unit. These are basically, it would be applied to every apartment, not one building that happened to have maybe 20 apartments in it. In the end, I think the simplest approach that seems like it will capture the funding that we need and not create any significant unintended consequences is to specifically remove the cap when it's associated with certain types of construction. And town solicitor and the town staff are going to be drafting up an ordinance that'll come back to the council to address that. Ideally, we want our fire and ambulance services to have all the resources that they can get, and especially when you are putting in a lot more places where people are likely to live, which means likely to have more fire or ambulance calls associated with that. So we'll see an ordinance for that hopefully at the next council meeting. There was another continued discussion on landlord notifications. So we had an issue. Fire whistle is going off, so you're going to hear that in the background. There was an issue raised that or a question raised from a landlord, really, that when they had tenants move out, they left a ton of garbage, they left a lot of mess, and the landlord was sort of surprised to find out that they were the one responsible for paying for those cleanup fees that the town incurred to clean up the mess that the tenant left. It's communicated in the details when you sign up for a permit. It's in the landlord-tenant code. It's communicated in a number of different places, but not all of those things are things that people read and people understand. So the idea here is that we're going to try and over-communicate a little bit more to landlords that they are in fact responsible for any fees, any unpaid utilities, anything associated with their rental properties. It seemed like second nature, and it seems very obvious to me, but apparently it's not terribly obvious to everybody. So we're going to just do more communication associated with it. Send out a letter to everybody this year, making sure that they understand it, and then include that letter in the renewals for rental or rental property permits that go out every single year. And then one other item, more of a discussion item, there's a bill out there, Senate Bill 99, that seeks to limit some of the ability for municipalities to utilize what are called, generally referred to as nuisance property ordinances or laws. These are laws that are on the books, and we have one here in Smyrna, that can be used to go after and prosecute landlords, prosecute homeowners who have properties that are considered to be a nuisance. And by this we mean like you're constantly getting phone calls associated with domestic disturbances, maybe that's one. You're constantly getting problems associated with drug use or drug sales on your property. If you're the landlord and you're allowing that to continue on your property, there are potential consequences for you. There's a bill that seeks to remove the ability to implement those laws because they're seen as being a tool that is often used against certain groups of people, certain protected classes, to sort of create housing issues. You can understand how this is possible, but at the other side, it's something that our staff, our police department like to have as the ability to try and force some changes. We have houses in this community that our police, our fire, our ambulance constantly respond to for a variety of reasons that eat up a lot of resources for our town, and having some sort of a tool that we can utilize to try and mitigate those is an important thing. So we're opposed to SB 99. Council had a vote to submit a letter in opposition to SB 99, as are the police chiefs and most other municipalities here in the state. So that was the major things that we had on our agenda last night. A few other sort of little discussion items that popped up here and there, but that was the gist of it. So I'm heading out of town for a wedding, so I'm sort of running real quick this morning. And I have my Star Wars shirt on today, because yesterday was Star Wars Day, and I didn't get to watch any Star Wars. Sad. The town tidbits, make sure you sign up for them. Tonight is not only Cinco de Mayo, which is always fun and good reason to have a good time, but music down on Main Street. Get down there, check it out. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there, but have some chicken on a stick for me, or for my kids, really. So thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.